Good morning, dear students. Today we are going to talk about the development of face. I am Dr. Farah Boss, Associate Professor in Department of Anatomy. The learning objectives for today's class, uh, as you can see, is by the end of the class, the learner should know the development of face. Uh, Here, this is a side view of the developing embryo where you can appreciate two bulgings. Cranial one is the developing forebrain and the caudal one is the developing pericardium. In between the two bulgings, there is stomodium separated from the outside by the buccopharyngeal membrane. Now, this developing forebrain develops a hook-like projection on the ventral aspect. This is known as frontonasal prominence. Now, this prominence and the process are one and the same thing. Some write it as process and some write it as prominence. So the formation of face begins with um, five facial prominences. One is frontonasal prominence and two maxillary and two mandibular prominences. They are the paired ones, whereas the frontonasal is unpaired. This begins at the end of the fourth week. And this frontonasal prominence develops a local thickening of the surface ectoderm that is known as nasal placoid. These nasal placoids invaginate in the midline or in the center to form nasal pits, and this nasal pit on both the sides is surrounded by a ridge of tissue that is known as the nasal prominence. Now this nasal prominence divides into two. You can see yellow and blue color. Yellow ones are the medial nasal prominences, again paired, and blue ones are the lateral nasal prominences. They merge together, that is the medial nasal prominences merge together when the maxillary prominences increase in size and compress the medial nasal prominences. Now this medial nasal prominences along with the maxillary prominences, they fuse to form the upper lip. Here you can see the center and the lateral parts. Orange one is the maxillary prominence and the yellow one is the medial nasal prominences. So these medial nasal prominences, they form the philtrum of the upper lip, whereas the maxillary prominences, they both form the lateral part of the upper lip on either sides. And the take-home message, as you can see, is the face develops from five facial prominences: frontonasal, two maxillary, and two mandibular. Whereas the upper lip is formed from medial nasal as well as the maxillary prominences. Thank you. Have a good day.